Greetings and bienvenue, midnight crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast. And welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Not even sure if this is appropriate for this board, but I'm not sure where else to put it, so enjoy. This is a true story. In fact, any of you who are fans of space games may have heard about the person it happened to, but you haven't heard the full story. And I'm withholding his name, since he never gave me permission to tell the story, so he can always just deny it and nobody can prove he's lying. A friend of mine is a computer programmer. A few years ago he decided that he can do a better job designing a space game than anyone else has, so he got to work doing just that. He came up with an idea for a game where all of the content is generated randomly, based on code constraints written into the engine and a pseudo-random seed variable. To the non-programmers in the room, normally to create a game, you have to build a 3D engine, or use an open source or licensed engine created by others. Then create all the things that go into the game: characters, vehicles, planets, stars, moons. Instead of all of that, he created the engine and taught it to take random information and turn it into all of those things. It's called procedural content generation, and the idea isn't new. It's used in tons of games, but normally it's procedural content mixed with created content, or created content distributed procedurally. Not this time. Everything in this game is built by math and code. Everything. Space stations, spaceships, and even alien races, each with distinct cultural predilections and all. One might be a hostile warrior race, one might be a friendly trade-based species. The point was, the game creates the races by randomly choosing attribute levels. The AI for the aliens were based on these attributes, such as aggression, curiosity, intelligence, etc., and they were all procedurally generated. You could discover, make contact with, do business and trade, invade, kill them all, whatever. Each was totally different from the next, but all were based on the same code. It's a very economical and cool way to create more content than any game should be able to hold. I even asked him after the first alpha release how he got so many different forms of AI at such a high level of sophistication, and he rattled off something about natural selection that was way over my head. He said that they evolve. Soon, the NPCs started acting strangely. The platform crashed one night while he was in combat with a few of them. When he started it back up, he warped back to the location and found the NPCs he'd been fighting just sitting there in space. When he ran a radiometric analysis, it appeared they were running intense scans of the exact spot where he'd been when the game crashed. Others had gathered to join the search. One was a new kind of vessel we'd never seen before. A tactical analysis showed it was equipped with high-quality sensors and was classified a science vessel. He shrugged it off as a ghost in the machine and kept working. He would perform upgrades to the item manufacturing engine about once a week. When he did, it often ended up producing higher quality items from the same materials, and many of the items that were already created and being bought and sold on alien markets were suddenly obsolete. One week he went to make the changes, and he noticed that several NPCs had sold all their assets at discount prices the day before. He again shrugged it off as a coincidence and began the upgrade. The following week, he went to do the upgrade, and the same NPCs had managed to short sell a large quantity of high-quality items that were about to be made obsolete. The NPCs had started to notice the changes he was making to the game, and anticipate them. Now, in the world of video games, AI is a misnomer. It's not really AI. If real AI was as smart as you or me, these AIs were about as smart as ants. They know just enough to suck at one video game and do nothing else. The idea that they can identify and anticipate trends in human behavior is like an insect successfully guessing where you'll eat dinner in a week. It is, quite simply, far beyond their capabilities, yet it seemed to be happening. It wasn't over. Soon alien races started working together. More than just the cooperative ones. For the first time in the game, naturally hostile aliens started working in parallel with friendly ones, and almost overnight all of them became hostile to him. They worked together to amass large fleets of sophisticated warships and track him through space, trying to kill him. He ended up having to make his ship invulnerable while testing the game, because every time he'd log in, they'd find him as quickly as they could and attack him. Once he made himself invulnerable, they stopped attacking him, but they continued to watch every move he made. About a month later, he'd made changes to the combat system, and to test it he made his ship vulnerable again, with the expectation they'd attack him. They didn't. He attacked them, but they didn't retaliate. He called me up to log in to test the changes instead. As I was playing with him, we were chasing each other through an asteroid field in fast-moving frigates. I had a good idea where he was, down to about 180 kilometers radius, so I was looking at each rock individually, as the old movie trope of a ship hiding behind an asteroid is actually a pretty good strategy in this game. While looking, I'd take potshots at asteroids here and there and write little messages on them with my blasters, like "I'll find you," and I drew a dick on one of them, for shits and giggles. Anyway, I found him and chased him out, hot on his tail, and when we got to the edge of the asteroid field, there was a massive alien fleet that had been sitting there watching the entire time. He told me to ignore them and that he was working on keeping them from following players around, but he couldn't find anything in the code that was making them do it. All I heard was "ignore them," and I said okay and opened fire on him. The moment I did, they all aggro on me and killed me instantly. We were both laughing pretty hard, and I didn't think anything of it at the time. 2 days later, he called me on Skype and told me to log in and warp to his location. I did. He told me to take a close look at the alien space station that had just been constructed in orbit of the planet he was at. When I did, I didn't understand at first the significance of what I was looking at. The space station had written on it, in my handwriting if you can call it that, "I'll find you," and a picture of a dick. I said, "Why did you put that on a space station?" And I'll never forget the haunted tone in his voice when he said he didn't. Incidents like this continued. We both started scrawling little messages on moons and asteroids when the aliens were around, and he'd see them pop up in later alien ships and structures. There's a planet in the game where the NPCs have built cities in the shape of random letters and numbers, and one with the phrase "All praise be to his name," which he had scrawled on a moon as a joke. But when he saw it for the first time, scrawled on a massive planet with structures, a giant monument to him as the god of this universe, he suddenly didn't find it that funny anymore. In the process of doing research, my friend came across an article about a scientific idea called simulation theory, which states that any universe capable of giving rise to intelligent life, for example ours, will necessarily do so many times over. Each intelligent life form will end up making simulations like video games, and as such, as their simulations grow in complexity, they can become indistinguishable from reality like the Matrix. Now, because there is at least one universe capable of this ours by the mediocrity principle, there must be many, and if each has many forms of intelligent life capable of creating simulated universes, then the number of simulated universes must be infinitely higher than the number of real universes, if there even is such a thing. Therefore, the simulation theory is really the theory that it is infinitely more probable that we live in a simulated universe than it is that we live in a real one. My friend became fascinated with this idea and could not help but notice the similarities to what he was doing. All of those creatures inside were incapable of imagining their true place in the universe, but they were perfectly capable of being curious about it. He reasoned that even a simulation designed to be far more realistic would contain creatures that were completely oblivious to the fact that they were just code in a text file somewhere. But if confronted with evidence that the world is not as they see it, they either become fascinated or terrified. The idea that he could be an NPC in a video game on some computer mainframe somewhere got to him. It consumed his days and nights. He could no longer focus on his work, and he ended up having a nervous breakdown and abandoning the project, but not before he backed up everything to as many redundant servers as he could find. When I asked him why, he said in case anything happens to them, he's still in there. He spends all his time there now. I guess if I were the god of an entire universe, I'd probably spend all my time there too. There are plenty of videos about the game, but as far as I know, nobody but us has seen evidence of emergent properties, nor does anyone know the real reason he quit working on it. Different countries and their different history narratives are actually a way to keep prisoners contained. We all have access to limited and highly distorted info akin to North Korea. Same with what we can access on the internet. Every search will only lead you to the narrative they want you to know. We are prisoners and we fight wars and kill each other as part of huge prison gangs and turf wars. With the internet and your supposed access to knowledge here, they keep us even more controlled because we have the illusion we are coming across differing opinions. In fact, dead internet theory probably holds a lot of truth, but it was dead long before we even thought with regards to AI and glowy invasion. Do you really think they'd give you access to all this information if it would actually be useful in freeing ourselves? Perhaps there are some cracks in the matrix, but basically it's all bullshit and illusion. This theory, that theory, how do we get behind theories and reach the ultimate truth? It's been going on before the internet with books which were published. We all know schools are indoctrination camps. We are prisoners indeed, but the question is, how do we break free? I'm not saying it's bad to be nationalistic just to remember your nation is just a prison you were born into. In the end, we're all in this struggle together to break out the matrix or destroy it altogether. Maybe it's a simulation, I'm not sure, but if it is, it's not headed by God but some corrupt sociopathic lying machine. A machine of lies and a regime and a system of laws to make sure those being lied to never discover the truth, for when we do, maybe we can break out of this shitshow. Or maybe it's a path we have to take alone since we're all in separate simulations or narratives of the world as we know it, but maybe there is no we, but I hope so. There are so many NPCs. Maybe they're too deep in the simulation, but some of us have seen cracks and glitches in it, and we are the people who will unite. There's strength in numbers, but what is to be done? Can we even really free ourselves? Do we need a savior in some form, or is that just what they want us to believe, another lie to keep us trapped here? Maybe we can save ourselves by saving each other. But there are so many people out there right now who think of themselves as enlightened or humanistic, but they're throwing their brothers and sisters into the meat grinder. What if it's a giant prison with a GTA-style map where you unlock other parts as you progress to be a good, productive member of society and let your dreams die and sell your soul? Also, a lot of the people online are actually bots or misinfo agents, most likely from your own nation, to try to influence your opinion as an outsider from an insider's perspective. It's all a psyop. I think we have to hope for some kind of human decency, if that even exists, and some people with a shared goal of breaking through who aren't just plants to keep us occupied and stuck here. Tech may be useful, but nothing from Microsoft or Apple or Google is going to break us out. Or maybe Ted was right about tech all along. Look for reality glitches and exploit them to escape this reality. I just wonder if we're all in the simulation together or at different stages. Brain in a jar makes sense, but I think we still have our bodies. I saw the future once not long after seeing 3 disc-shaped objects slowly glide across the sky, and until they passed by, time froze. I think they were government saucers, though not aliens. They won't tell us how advanced their tech and mind control has been for decades, if not almost a century. Maybe it even predates that. But maybe this only exists in this timeline. Maybe we are all in different timelines right now, or we were, or we will be. And maybe there is a way to shift these or mingle with another's timeline. There may be places where glitches are more likely to occur, or locations. The underworld of the Mayans in those caves may at one time have actually worked and transported people to different realms. Similar things are reported in many cultures, but we laugh at the idea now. But maybe they just fixed that glitch and patched it up. We can't be tied to this world or to material things, for in the end it all crumbles, and none of it is real, only as we know it to be. But we have to break through all this and aim for some higher plane. To free ourselves of this matrix.
There will be no collapse the way some of these people think of it. It's not going to be like the movie Dawn of the Dead or whatever, where one day suddenly shit hits the fan and prices skyrocket and everyone begins to riot. And the military comes marching down the street to kill everyone. There will be no happening. It's far more insidious than that. Read the poem, The Hollow Men by Thomas Stearns Eliot, and you'll understand. You'll just notice that everyday simple things will become a little more expensive. Everyone's homes and apartments will start to get smaller. Your work hours will get longer, but your pay will decrease. You'll see family and friends less, and find that in time you care less about them. Every day you'll find yourself lowering your standards for everything: work, food, relationships, etc. Job security will no longer exist as a concept. You'll notice houses and apartments shrinking. People will start hanging on to clothing longer and longer. Less people will get married, even less will have children. People will engross themselves in technological distractions and fantasy while never truly experiencing the real world. Whatever dream people used to have about what their lives were going to be will become for them a distant memory. The only thing left for them will be the reality of their debt and their poverty. And every minute of every day they will be told, "You are stupid, ugly, and weak, but together we are free, prosperous, and safe." That is the collapse. The reduction of the American man into a feudal serf, incapable of feeling love or hate, incapable of seeing the pitiful nature of his situation for what it is or recognizing his own self-worth.
The Hollow Men by T.S. Eliot. We are the hollow men. We are the stuffed men. Leaning together. Headpiece filled with straw. Alas! Our dried voices, when we whisper together, are quiet and meaningless, as wind in dry grass, or rats' feet over broken glass. In our dry cellar, shape without form, shade without color, paralyzed force, gesture without motion. Those who have crossed, with direct eyes, to death's other kingdom, remember us if at all not as lost, violent souls, but only as the hollow men, the stuffed men. Eyes I dare not meet in dreams. In death's dream kingdom, these do not appear. There, the eyes are. Sunlight on a broken column. There, is a tree swinging. And voices are. In the wind singing. More distant and more solemn than a fading star. Let me be no nearer. In death's dream kingdom, let me also wear Such deliberate disguises. Rat's coat, crow skin, crossed staves. In a field. Behaving as the wind behaves. No nearer. Not that final meeting. In the Twilight Kingdom. This is the Dead Land. This is Cactus Land. Here the stone images are raised, here they receive the supplication of a dead man's hand. Under the twinkle of a fading star. Is it like this? In death's other kingdom. Waking alone. At the hour when we are trembling with tenderness. Lips that would kiss. Form prayers to broken stone. The eyes are not here. There are no eyes here. In this valley of dying stars. In this hollow valley. This broken jaw of our lost kingdoms. In this last of meeting places. We grope together. And avoid speech. Gathered on this beach of the tumid river. Sightless, unless the eyes reappear. As the perpetual star. Multifoliate rose. Of death's twilight kingdom. The hope only. Of empty men. Here we go round the prickly pear. Prickly pear, prickly pear. Here we go round the prickly pear. At 5 o'clock in the morning. Between the idea. And the reality. Between the motion. And the act. Falls the shadow. For thine is the kingdom. Between the conception. And the creation. Between the emotion. And the response. Falls the shadow. Life is very long. Between the desire. And the spasm. Between the potency. And the existence. Between the essence. And the descent. Falls the shadow. For thine is the kingdom. For thine is. Life is. For thine is the. This is the way the world ends. This is the way the world ends. This is the way the world ends. Not with a bang but a whimper.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more green texts will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.
Remember to check out the Odyssey page in the description for a second archive of the channel's videos.